and welcome back to day 6 of your 10-day mindfulness commitment. Now today, the theme of the day is emotions. And this relates to some of the thoughts that might arise, or some of the feelings and moods and emotions that might arise when we practice something like this. Because I think for most people living in this modern day life, there's so much going on all the time, right? Their mind is spinning and we're getting distracted by all sorts of things. So sometimes we might not sort of have the time to settle down and to face some of our difficulties emotionally. So when we sit like this to practice mindfulness, naturally there's some space and there's some time for some of these repressed things to surface, right? All of a sudden, something might come from the side that you haven't been thinking about for a long time, and it makes you feel sad or angry or whatever, right? So how do we deal with these emotions that might arise while we sit with the mind? Now, I think a lot of people have the tendency to try and ignore them, right? Thinking, oh no, I'm practicing mindfulness right now. Like, go away. I'll deal with you later, right? And by doing this, we're sort of creating some tension in the mind, right? We're engaging in some mental activity that sort of spins and spirals and becomes more than what it is. So a different approach to dealing with emotions and with sort of anything that really arises during the practice is to acknowledge it for what it is, right? And we can again use this noting technique, this labeling technique, by saying, oh, there's feeling. Oh, there's emotion. Maybe even what emotion, if we know in particular what it is, saying, oh, there's sadness, right? And by acknowledging instead of ignoring, we're sort of creating space for this thing to sort of be seen, and then it can dissolve and move on, right? And maybe it doesn't move on. Well, then you just notice that, oh, still sadness, right? And try and stay with the breath. Oh, the sadness again. Wow, it keeps coming. Interesting, right? So keep that curiosity, keep that interest. And yeah, it might be really difficult, but often it doesn't mean that it is something that is being sort of activated by doing mindfulness. I think rather it means that finally you're creating some space for this to surface. So it's probably quite good that it gets space to surface, because if not, then it just grows down there and all of a sudden it comes out and it bursts out in a very overwhelming fashion. So we would rather sort of let it out gradually, allow it to be, acknowledge it, and see it for what it is. And maybe it makes you a bit sad, maybe it makes you a bit angry, or whatever it might be. Joyful, could also be. But just allowing it to be what it is. All right? That's the tip and the advice. And maybe you don't feel anything in particular. You just have thoughts about random things. Also perfectly fine and normal. Either way, we're going to practice and try to keep that sort of approach in mind today of how to navigate through some of the distractions that might arise. So getting comfortable now, in your seat, in your chair, against the wall, in your bed, whatever, on the metro, on the bus, on the train. And with eyes open, just take a moment to notice where you are right now. Notice whatever you can see, what's in your field of view. Maybe spotting something you never noticed before. Small little detail. And taking some deep breaths here. And just loud and clear so everyone can hear them right now. Again. And one last here before closing the eyes. Wonderful. And just allowing the eyes to close, if you haven't already. And becoming aware of the physical sensation of touch, contact with the seat, contact with the chair, hands in your lap, clothes on your skin. Noticing any sounds from inside the room, maybe outside your room. Any smell, any taste, if any. And bringing the awareness to the top of the head now, we're just gonna slowly scan down through the body in your own time for the next 20 to 30 seconds. I won't be saying anything. I will just meet at the feet. So doing that now in your own time. Beautiful. If you're not done yet, you can just make your way all the way down to the toes. And in the same way, we're gonna check in with the mind, noticing any apparent mood, emotions, feelings. Building a picture of how it feels to be you right now in this moment. And not trying to change it, but not trying to ignore it either. Just acknowledging, seeing it for what it is, and allowing it to be. And bringing the mind now to the breath and the movement of the chest. And just noticing how the chest rises on an inhale and falls down on an exhale. And if you want, you can count the breath, counting inhales and exhales all the way up to 10, starting over at 1. And when the mind starts drifting, it's coming back to that movement of the chest and staying with the breath. And not getting too involved with any of the distractions by chasing down a chain of thoughts. And also not ignoring any thoughts by just completely looking away. But instead just acknowledging what's present and allowing it to be. And it's completely normal for the mind to start drifting. If you find yourself somewhere else, just coming back to the breath again. always coming back to the breath when you notice that you've been distracted. And for a moment now, just letting completely go of any staying with the breath, any counting of the breath, and just allowing the mind to do whatever it wants to do. Having nothing to do for a moment here. Coming back to the body now, just noticing the contact with this seat. Any sounds, any smell, any taste. Anything to get you back into being in this room and being you right here, right now. And in your own time, when you feel ready, you can just gently open your eyes. And notice how you feel in this moment. Not judging it, not trying to change it, not trying to ignore it, but just acknowledging. What does this moment have to bring? How does it feel to be you right now? And I wonder how that teaching of emotion resonates with you. And maybe it doesn't really relate to you. Maybe you haven't felt any strong emotions, or maybe you have. In either case, it's an important teaching, I believe, because it teaches us that whatever distraction might arise, we will acknowledge it and allow it to pass on by itself. Not getting engaged in it, entangled in it, and not ignoring it, and not seeing it at all, but just acknowledging it and moving on, coming back to the breath. So good job for completing day 6, and I'll see you again tomorrow.